one's the best crypto asset? Bitcoin's the best crypto asset. Which one's the best crypto asset? Bitcoin's the best crypto asset. Which one's the best? 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 What's the second best?
This is Discover Crypto. We got a major show today. Smash those like buttons, everybody. I'm your host, DZ. We got to talk about, is this a bear market? Why aren't altcoins performing as well? Are they done forever? Are we cooked? We got very, very intelligent traders out there saying this is the end of the bull market. We are not going to see higher than 126 ever again. Some are saying 2026 guaranteed to be a bear market year. We're going to ask you what you think about that. Hey, we got to talk about New York City's mayor election. What does that mean for crypto in that state? Hey, we're going to go cover some major liquidations. But I'm here with TJ. TJ, how are you doing today?
I'm doing all right. Smash bought yesterday on the dip, like we talked about on the show. Finally got that wire through that I've been trying to get through for a long time, or ended up having to do it through another avenue. So ended up getting some decent entries. The big question, and I'm sure what we're going to look at today, is will those entries hold up? So nailed it as far as limit orders yesterday. Just for full disclosure, I think I've got it right here. I'll go ahead and show. Bought some Bitcoin for 99, some Solana for 147, and some AVAX for 15 bucks. So that's what I scooped. Right. Mostly Bitcoin, obviously, yesterday. But yeah, feels good to get Bitcoin under 100K. The big question is, will it go lower in the near term, or was that the perfect buy? So
all right,
people
like what do you think? You're buying. They like smash the like if you like us. Buying the dips. We're trying to pump your bag. That's essentially what's happening here. But
yeah, I want to put my money where my mouth is. We're going to look at that level we've been watching really for the last few weeks. But, I still believe we're going to go back up before we go into an extended bear market. But that's a lot of what we're going to look at in today's show is what will 2026 look like? But I'm still bullish for after the market structure build, December, early 2026. So that's where I'm at.
All right, well, let's look at this. I have a great idea for everybody, a digital asset treasury that borrows Bitcoin and then sells it and buying these rapidly appreciating dollars, these green rectangles, just not performing all my bags.
Yeah, that's funny.
People like that one. All right, let's look at Bitcoin now. We have a new line down here. This is not the 50-week moving average. What we're looking at here is the daily chart. And this right here is the 365-day moving average. So this is just the yearly average of Bitcoin's price. You can see we came down and tested it. Very similar to what we're seeing with the 50-week moving average, 365-day moving average, coming down, flirting with this area several times during this bull run. You can see it was used as a board here for support. You can see it was used as support 2 times here earlier in, this is going to be the Q3 2024. And this essentially created the springboard mechanism for this entire bull market. And now we're coming down and we're testing this range. So very, very important level for Bitcoin. We look at some of the smaller time frames. We're getting a little bit of a bounce here. We are starting to see a little bit of support. You see on the RSI, though, starting to cool down. So, we might dump during this stream. Now, I'm not saying we can't continue to create bullish divergences on this 5-minute chart. But I, would not be surprised to see us maybe have some price action that looks a little bit like this over the next couple hours.
Yeah. Well, and if that's true, if we don't get back above some of these levels we were fighting for earlier, Crypto Crank, who was on earlier in the week in the Discord, was saying it's very important that we kind of get back above that 105 range and don't get hard. If we go up to 105 and get hard rejected again, then the kind of larger channel, downward channel that we've been in could continue down lower. So, and I will say we're not out of the woods yet. I did buy pretty heavy yesterday, but I didn't buy 100% of all my cash because, I do believe the market structure bill, the government shutdown is big things affecting this stuff. And I'm expecting a rally once those things continue, but, there could be another week or 2 before we get that type of action, both from the market structure and from government opening back up. So if there's another 2 weeks before those things happen, there could be more short-term pain on the horizon. But again, I don't think we're necessarily going down to the 80s. You know, basically the number I got on Bitcoin 99, you know, was good enough for me under 100K. Maybe we get back into the 80s. If we do, I'll buy a substantial chunk more, but I just don't see us going that much lower. It could happen, but we'll see. We'll see.
Now, there is one indicator that not many people are talking about. I heard CryptoPhase talking about it. It's the full moon indicator here. And the full moon, we have a full moon, I believe, starting today. I think they got it. Yeah, full moon delta indicator. We got to go to the daily. Yeah. This actually does play out. This is where we're at in the market, folks. You'd be surprised how often it pumps off a full moon. It's just a thing that happens. You can see it. And this is typically another sign of a bear market. We start relying on astrology.
Moon cycles. Yeah. Well, they call this astrology for men, right? You know, TA. That's what they say.
Well, yeah. I mean, you can see a very long consecutive string of it ends up kind of pumping the markets there. So maybe keep an eye out on that. All right, let's look. Let's hit refresh here. This kind of checking in on the altcoins. ETH is way down relative to Bitcoin. They both had a pretty good bounce over the past hour, but ETH is down 5%. XRP holding stronger, Solana holding stronger, Tron in the green here, Dogecoin actually about to turn positive, and Cardano also holding stronger here. Now, if we keep scrolling, we see Hype with the nice little pump here. It is up 5%. Looking for the big gainers. It's Zcash. I top Zcash and you call me an idiot. And then we fast forward 5 days and you're like, I should have just listened to DZ. I should have just top blasted him with at 220. I should have top blasted with him at 360. I should have top blasted with him at 420. I don't know when you guys are going to listen to me. Now, the real question is, TJ, when do I take profit on this?
That is the real question. I would say great call getting into it. And yeah, you're up 40% in 7 days. I mean, if you listen to the big whales, they're talking $1,000 Zcash at least.
So that is a good point. I was going to come to that. There is a lot of potential sell pressure around 1,000. What number, chat? Tell me what number to jeopardy them, not jeopardy, to prices right them. We need a prices right the other sellers. So if we got sellers coming in at 1,000, it's going to be a lot of people saying, I need to sell at 900. Does that mean I sell at 880? Should I sell at 850? I will take profit to the best good answer I see here talking about Zcash. First one coming in, take profit at sevens, 777, 799. I don't know if $999 is enough of a front run of the $1,000 selling pressure. Let's see, we got 960, 888 is going to be a very popular number in Asian cultures there. 800. TJ, well, what do you say? Where should I sell my Zcash?
Yeah, and you may be able to split, not necessarily do all of it, but I think I like the high sevens and 777, 800 range. That's usually where I would be.
This guy selling sell at 487.70. Hey, wait a minute there.
Yeah, that's right now. Yeah, I'd be in the 8s probably. 820. I don't mind 820.
All right, that might unironically be the best number right there. Maybe I should take some of my initials. Maybe I'll just like peel off a little bit. I don't know. I will let you know. I'll put it in the Discord, folks.
696.9. That's not a bad one.
That's not a bad one either there. All right, let's check in on ETH. If you watched ETH video last night, congratulations. You're able to make a move off of this. We had, ETH come down on the weekly right to the 50. I think we got it right there. So still holding strong, still holding this as support. Again, if you had not watched last night's ETH video, I highly recommend that. We talk about lines in the sand that Ethereum must hold. Otherwise, alt season is going to be over. Alt season cannot start until we start seeing some bounces. And I will say ETH has been respecting this level, this 365-day moving average. We're going to talk about this level a little bit later for Bitcoin. Right now, very, very inflection point, a very, very important inflection point for Ethereum. I mean, this is like literally right there on it. The Bulls and the Bears are fighting. This is a clash of the Titans.
Yeah, I mean, it's just like the other averages we've been watching. I mean, it's sitting at the decision point right now where if it goes below and stays below these, closes a couple candles below these levels, it's it's bear market time, and you better buckle up. That means we got a year of not fun action, or we'll be able to take some shorts and make some money. There's still money to be made in bear market, but if we can't hold some of these pivotal points that we're at right now, it's gonna get we're gonna have a bear market ahead, which again doesn't have to be scary, by the way, guys. I know it might be disappointing if you didn't get what you wanted out of your altcoins this cycle, but if we are heading back into a bear market, I do want to give you at least the solace that that is the time you actually make your money. If you've heard about, like in real estate, they say you don't make your money on your sells, it's where you buy. It's the same thing in this. It's buying, Solana at $9. You could do that in 2022. It's buying Aerodrome at 20 cents. You were doing that in 22 and 23. A lot of the things we're still sitting on were things we were accumulating in 2022 and 2023. So not saying we're there yet. Still not tapping out on alt season. It's still hard for me to say alt season topped, December 2024, a whole year early. But if we are, I'm just kind of telling you, don't just walk away and say you're going to come back. It's actually, that's the best time to be engaged is when prices are down, not up. So
yeah, sells over buys. Yeah, very, very good point there. Sells much more important. Now let's talk about maybe some of the catalysts. We'll talk about why things are dumping. This is going to be one of the major reasons, folks. I think I need to do a video on this. We'll talk about the government shutdown a little bit more later, but what happens when the government shutdown ends? We have entered record territory for a government shutdown. This is now the longest government shutdown in history. And if we go to Polymarket, now prediction markets are saying 8th through the 11th. It's going to put it, right around 39 days, 40 days if we end up hitting that level. But almost half of the respondents are saying, no, we're not going to see relief for a long, long time. So maybe it's worth doing a video. What happened to Bitcoin right as the government shutdown ended? What happened to altcoins? Bitcoin dominance when the government shutdown ended. Is this going to create a risk-on environment? I think it's worth a little bit of research, folks. I haven't had all the time in the world. There's a lot of data when it comes to these government shutdowns. But let's kind of talk about a little bit of a hope at the end of the tunnel here. Who's getting greedy, TJ? The bears. The bears are getting greedy. What you're seeing here, these vertical bars are positions that get liquidated if it hits a certain price. Right now, so if Bitcoin goes to the right, means the price goes up. All of these start getting liquidated. And if you compare it to the people that are longing, not that many people are betting on the market going up. There's a lot more people betting on the market going down. And, just kind of that windshield wiper method. The more rain on one particular side of your windshield, the more likely the windshield wiper has to wipe everybody out. And it looks like all these longs, there's not much there. So these shorts might be what gets wiped out. All the bugs are splattered on this side of the windshield.
So is that like 111 where that tall bar is?
This tall bar is going to be
116.
Yeah, 116. Yeah, I was looking at this. $10 billion in accumulated longs get wiped out at 116. I think we're at $2 billion at 106. So it really doesn't take that much of a move to wipe out billions of dollars there. And yeah, this is $10 billion liquidation. Now, will we see this in one daily candle? I mean, it would be a miracle if it happened. I would put it at, maybe 2% odds, but this might create the largest liquidation event in history, but by going to the upside for once.
Yeah. Well, and that's the kind of thing it could absolutely happen on the news. The government's opening back up, or the market structure bill is getting passed. Like that's the kind of stuff. It absolutely can happen quickly. And when you are wrecking those shorts, or at least even closing those shorts, that's when you start to see those God candles where you get it. I mean, we've seen it already. $10,000 1 hour candle on Bitcoin. It's definitely possible. I mean, we were looking at, if you could get it, and that goes both ways. Bitcoin can, we've already seen Bitcoin go from 113 to 103 in a day. That it's just, people forget how fast Bitcoin can move until they see it do it. And then they always have recency bias. We forget how fast it can move up when it's going down. We forget how fast it can move down when it's going up. But the liquidity, yeah, there definitely seems to be some above us, but there's still some below us there. What are those?
Yeah. It looks like some people after the move up, a lot of people got liquidated in this range. And then maybe some revenge trading. Then we have some people opening shorts. And you can see as the line goes to the right, it starts to turn yellow. And it really starts to turn yellow as the price started to go up. So it's like people got liquidated on their shorts and just revenge opened it long.
Yeah.
Which you see a lot.
Just lay off the leverage, guys. Come on. That's what we need for it to go up. That's the truth. If everybody could just stay off the leverage, if we could all agree to not leverage trade for a month, we'd probably see new all-time high.
We would have flying cars. We'd have $1 million Bitcoin. Cardano would be $2. It would be a wonderful world.
It would be a wonderful world. I like that.
All right. Well, let's talk about an unsubstantiated rumor. Something to keep an eye out on. Someone blew up and sold it all last night, likely connected to Binance, which drove the sell-off. This was posted 5 days ago. Apparently, one of the big market makers went bankrupt. team tried to raise enough capital to stay afloat, and it did not work out. They're going to dump their bag soon. Bitcoin will definitely dip below 100K. Be careful fading 4chan rumors. Sometimes they'll be screenshotted and revealed years later, like it was Nostradamus predicting this. Now, most of the noise there is going to be incorrect, but it is something maybe worth mentioning because this was posted 5 days ago, and we're seeing a lot of this stuff come true.
Yeah, I mean, people talking about the 10-10, day. So everybody, I think, has PTSD from Terra Luna collapse, leading to Three Arrows Capital, leading to Celsius, leading to FTX, and then basically almost the entire industry. So,
yeah. And folks, that was War of the Worlds, and Tom Cruise has one of his most Tom Cruisiest running scenes
in
ever.
that movie. Yeah.
Yeah, he's running from an alien. So, it's not a legal alien, but we are going to talk about New York City mayor later on. Oh, you like that segue? I'm just kidding. Let's talk about Marathon. Other major sellers out there is Marathon. This is a stock that we sold a while ago. We said this is a slow horse. I got out of it. I hope you got out of it with me. But this Bitcoin mining firm that have been consistently buying Bitcoin, are they now selling? In the past 12 hours, they transferred $236 million worth of Bitcoin. Let's actually look, and they have not done any other major moves. You can see the value right there. But if you scroll down, doesn't have it on, Marathon Miner, Coinbase Prime. It's a little bit cut off. That's 200 million. And they also sent some to Falcon. Once you add it all up, that was about $230 million there. But it does look like they have not sold anymore. So Marathon did move a lot of Bitcoin to these places where you're, presumably selling it there. But they have slowed down. So maybe, we're seeing a lot of this as reasons why we are starting to dump. And Ben Cowan, crazy prediction. I don't even want to say crazy. It's, you want to lose some money, bet against this guy. Typically how it works out. But this is a huge, huge statement from Ben Cowan. Multiple closes below 50-week would confirm the top being in, as it always has each cycle, regardless whether it's in or not. I still think, chat, what do you think about this? I think 2026 will be a bear market, just like all prior midterm years. So yes or no? Is 2026 going to be a bear market? Is it going to be a bear market? Is it going to be a bull market? TJ, well, what do you think?
Yeah, I think... Yes, that's a good question. I mean, basically, that's sticking to 4-year cycle theory. I mean, this is the same chart we've been watching, this 50-week moving average. You can see, when it falls below, it locks into these bear market. That's what he's talking about. It's a sustained bear market like this. I would assume 2026. And then once you're above it, you've got some pretty strong support there. And you can see we're sitting right on it. We wicked below it yesterday, came back up and closed it. We'll see where I'm looking at it on weekly candles. My big question that I'm facing is it feels a lot like 2019, where we kind of fell below it briefly right here. This is the same when you look at the banking system and the liquidity crisis and everything that's going on. We're very much, the banks are in the same position they were right here. And that's when we went into a full on printing mode and then went up into 2021. And now the question is, are we close to experiencing something like this or experiencing something like this, which is what happened in all of 2022? So he's saying absolutely bear market in 2026. That is completely consistent with the 4-year cycle. And right now, because so many things we've seen have been different from the 4-year cycle, I believe we're going to still see a bullish Q1 of 2026. And could still very likely see us, like if we do rally into January and February, say we hit bullish December, January, February, I could see things start to fall. The summer lull of 2026 being down, summer of 2026 into midterm cycles. Now there is still, you guys know, I've been talking about the big, beautiful bill and a lot of money printing to be done next year. And that's kind of the saving grace is if the Fed, the Treasury, and the money printing that's created injects enough liquidity into the market, it could be for 2026. But traditionally, every single time, 2026 should be a bearish year. So where do you land on that?
I do think December 31st will have a lower close than January 1st. So I will say it will be technically be a bear market. I think a lot of the people in chat kind of agree. Like some are saying, for 9 months, so like 50-50. I think it's going to be a little bit of here, a little bit of there. But if I had to really guess, I would say that December 31st is lower than January 1st.
Right.
So we'll close slightly lower versus the start of the year, but we'll have some pumps. But then, because it could crab up pretty slowly, and then a bear market, it could dump very, very, very suddenly. So it can pump for the first 9-10 months and still close lower.
Oh, you're saying you think December 26th will be lower than January 26th?
Yeah. Sorry, I didn't clarify. Yeah, December 31st, 26 will be lower than January 1st, 26.
I thought you were talking about December this year, and I was like, okay, so yeah. So
that's going to be that midnight candle, the New Year's Eve candles. Is going to be like a Jerome Powell speech conference.
So you're saying we'll be lower December of 26 than we are in January 26. Yes,
that would be my
even
guess.
Even if we pump January, February, like Q1's bullish, but
we could pump for the first 6 months and still in 9 months. At 9 months, I would say probably gonna, at 10 months, you probably close higher. But that would be my guess there.
Okay, yeah, there you go. What did chat say? I didn't see the consensus chat. Was it mostly 2026 bearish or bullish?
They're really all over the place there, and a lot of people are agreeing with Ben Cowan there. So I would, just say that's typically pretty good advice. How much link is enough link?
That is a good question. I think it's somewhere in that 4,200 range if you want to be in the top 1% of Link wallet holders. So I saw that one post a long time ago. I don't know if that's true.
I remember, my Chainlink story is I bought a bunch at $2 and I sold basically everything at $4. And I remember, looking at those 4chan threads in like 2020, like, what you need for the S-word stack and all those other things. But and I see people asking about Josh. No, you don't got to forget about Josh. He's just really busy with FOMO'd. Feel free,
he actually
support Josh, everything he's doing, folks.
Yeah, he just texted me over the weekend. He's just overseas a lot. He's back in the US for like 5 days doing a whole bunch. I actually need to call him today and see if he was going to swing by or not. But he's in town actually today.
All right, back in the USSR. All right, no, that's New York City. Oh, all right. I think I stole that joke. All right, Crypto Face with another insane prediction here. If 100K gets ran through down, 126 will probably never be seen again. Crypto's value is only in peer-to-peer transactions. Everything else is a scam. No government will ever use it. Crypto for the people, not your ETFs. 126, never to be seen again. Chat, what do you think? Is Crypto Face right? Will 126 never be seen again? Hit yes. If you do think we'll smash past 126, Bitcoin will hit $1 million. Want to hear a no, see a no there. Crypto Face, yet again, just like he did in 2021, saying that's the top forever. And if you don't know, he said that in April of 2021, not even in November of 2021.
Definitely not the forever top. I don't know if he's being tongue in cheek saying this or not, but even if we are, I do want to say this clearly. Even if we do experience bear market in 2026, that does not mean we won't see higher highs of Bitcoin within 5 years. I mean, I'm still in the, again, Bitcoin's heading to $1 million, definitely in the 2030s. Maybe not by 2030, but very, very soon. So, and then even 10 million by the 2040s. So long term, exceptionally bullish on Bitcoin. I don't see anything stopping that, anything close to stopping that.
So. Well, I'll tell you who does see some people who think Binance can stop it. Almost all the sell pressure from the last 48 hours came from Binance. And if you look at this chart right here, the green line is Binance's, basically the amount of Bitcoin they have. Most everybody was flat. But Binance, if you're wondering why we dumped, it was all Binance dumping there. You can just see it on chain. Let's talk about, where we at, the 365-day moving average. We talked about that. That was that line we're looking at in the beginning part of the show. So it fell below 99K, reaching a key macro indicator and reigniting debate over the market state because we dipped below the 365-day moving average. It was the final confirmation to the start of the 2022 bear market. This is talking about a previous one. The price needs to cross back above it quickly here. Now, according to market observers, it is the most important moving average for gauging Bitcoin sentiment. When it falls below it, widely viewed as a strong bearish signal. Some are saying it's just a routine cleanse, though. Kobayashi letter, I normally like what they're putting out. This one, a little alarmist. Bitcoin officially enters bear market territory, now down 20%. We're living in the most exciting market in history. I like fresh prints of crypto. A 20% correction does not denote a bear market. That's wildly inaccurate. There have been several during this bull market. The loss of the 50-week moving average, arguable bear market trigger. but a 20% pullback is not what makes that statement possibly true. I would agree with that sentiment as well. This is the significance of the 365-day moving average. This is the tweet reference in that article. It was the final confirmation to that previous bear market. The price needs to cross back above it quickly. I mean, you can see it right there. Yeah, essentially the start of the bear market. We went below it and then got rejected off of it. And then that one, it was just nothing but pain to the downside until the bear market bottom. And you can see we flipped very quickly flipped it into support, just one test and then a bounce, similar to what we saw right here. One test, then a dump. We
What
have been
average is
bouncing
this?
off of it. This is the 365-day.
365. Yeah. Okay. Interesting.
Very, very important level for you guys to be watching. But some are saying, yeah, this dip is normal. And who's buying accumulator wallets, the terminators of the Bitcoin markets here? They bought 50,000 Bitcoin yesterday. And if you look at last month, 375 Bitcoin in 30 days. And what's significant to me, this is averaging about 10,000 a day, a little bit more, like 12,000 and some change, averaging 12,000 and some change each day. 50,000 yesterday. So a very significant accumulation here. And accumulator addresses, wallets that only buy and never sell, show new records being set in October. On Tuesday, the accumulators added 50,000 Bitcoin as the price dropped below 100K for the first time since June. So these accumulator wallets had limit orders underneath 100K. They executed. To me, this is a very, very strong sign of strength and increases the odds, in my opinion, that we are going to see a bounce. Now, no one knows for sure, but I'm putting it at like 80-20, 70-30 that we are going to bounce rather than fall.
Yeah, I think we bounce on this. I mean, I've been, like I said, it's very similar lines that I'm watching in the sand. We've been talking about it for the last few weeks, saying we're on the line in the sand. Crank came on Monday, said it, talked about 98K. We went right to it, bounced off of it. Again, if it wasn't for all of the external pressure that was on the system right now, again, government being shut down, people don't understand how, like, the treasury account is absolutely ballooning right now because they're not paying any bills, which means if they're not paying out the bills that they owe to people, those people aren't paying their car bills and their bank deposits. And so the liquidity in banks right now, again, is extremely tight, like it was in 2019. So I do believe there's a huge cash injection coming into the system, at least for a short-term rally. And yes, that might mean that's kind of our last hurrah heading into a boring period, so to speak. But I do believe there's a big print coming. There almost has to be, or this entire banking system is going to collapse, and then things are going to get. We're talking if that happens, if they don't inject a lot of cash into the system, we're talking about a much worse bear market than normal. And I think that's what needs to be stressed in this stream is either we continue to go up, or if we do go into a bearish period, it could be a very bad bearish period. And that's part of what we were looking at here. If we do want to show this real quick, I mean, you and I were looking at this right before the show. People forget what a real bear market feels like when, I mean, you were looking at, like, this was in 2018 or 2017, 2018, going into a bear market. Bitcoin went from almost 20K to 11K, basically a 50% correction in 1 week. And within a couple weeks, we were all the way down to 5K, or 6K, call it. And then we went into a bear market and we kind of ranged between 6 and 10 forever. And then finally broke out of it, fell back below it. And then right here, this is where the banking system is, like, basically, let's see, September, December. Yeah, right in here, December-ish. We were kind of getting a hurrah, and then everything was about as tight as it is right now. They got off quantitative tightening. This is when they started getting back into the easing, and it took a few months. Like, this was the March 2020 crash. It took a few months for this to slow build before all that new money printing into the system came out, and that's what led to the 2021 bull run all the way up to 70K. But again, look, we went from 70K to 40K in 1, 2, 3 weeks. So when it goes, it moves fast, and then we crabbed all the way down to the absolute bottom of 16K over the course of 2023 or 2022. I'm sorry, and then it was just super boring. We haven't seen that yet. This has been much more systematic up, down. We get some up, we get some down. It hasn't been anything like a violent correction. Like, as bad as it feels to go from 125 to 100, like that's still only 25% in much more time. We're not getting 50% corrections. We're not getting a dramatic start to a bear market like we've seen in the past. So plenty of reasons, and I don't disagree with the 4 years. If anybody's sticking to the 4 year cycle, I don't fault them at all for doing that, because that's what history has shown. However, this cycle there's been many things that have been very, very different. So that's just, I'll just leave it at that.
All right, there you go. Now let's talk about some of the sell pressure. Now we did see a digital asset treasury company, I don't want to say collapse, but they kind of had to capitulate. Sequins, their shares dropped 16%. They had to sell about 1,000 Bitcoin, and they had to redeem half of their $189 million convertible debt. But what does that mean relative to their Bitcoin stash? Well, it's actually kind of good news in a weird way. So our deep conviction in Bitcoin remains unchanged. This is the CEO, George's. This transaction was a tactical decision aimed at unlocking shareholder value. And then he shared this picture. He's like, I'm basically George Washington. He didn't, but that's kind of what I'm reading from this. Now, they did have a stash of 3,234 Bitcoin. So it only cut it to 2,200. So they went from 3,200, 2,200, sold about a third of their stash. Meanwhile, their debt was cut in half. So cut their debt in half, but they only had to sell a third of their Bitcoin. But it's still not a great sign that they're having to sell their Bitcoin whatsoever. Now, more people are talking about MicroStrategy liquidation. Willy Woo coming out, he shared the facts here. He highly doubts it. Here's the debt, the date the debt is due, and the price it needs to be to exceed or to prevent partial liquidation. Now, me and TJ, again, we were talking about this ahead of the stream. Not necessarily a liquidation. This is just debt coming due. They don't have to sell their Bitcoin. They could raise more debt. They could extend the debt, kick the can down the road.
Mm-hmm.
It isn't necessary that they will have to sell. But the first debt due is 2 years from now, and Bitcoin needs to be $91,000.
Yeah, it cracks me when people,
they're safe.
People talk about liquidation like he's in a perpetual leverage long. Like he's not. I mean, we pull it. You can also look at all this stuff on their website too. This is the strategy website. I mean, their leverage on their stack is 12%. Yesterday it was 10%, when the price was a little bit higher. So this is fairly safe, all things considered. You can look at their debt. This is exactly what they were just talking about, the maturity date, 2028, 2029, 2030, 31, 32. So on average, they've got another 4 years before any of this has to be repaid. And obviously, part of why I know Michael Saylor feels confident in this is he could also personally cover the debt that the company has, even with the Bitcoin he has. So like if he ever did get into any kind of situation, not saying that he would or that he has to or that you could count on that, I just have a feeling, I know how entrepreneurs like him think a lot of times, and he's thinking like, well, I've personally got enough Bitcoin. If it ever came down to it and we needed to repay some of this debt, I could basically swap this for MicroStrategy shares, and it would be the same to him. So MicroStrategy, much more of a giant than people like to realize. Again, I'm still extremely bullish on this STRC, their latest product here. Interesting to see this hold up and actually increase to 100. This is designed to kind of stay near this price, but the fact that this went up on a day that the whole market was crashing is actually pretty significant. It could allow them to have access to new capital coming in on down days, because this is a hedge. It's a guaranteed yield that pays this monthly dividend, and it's tax-free for the first 10 years. So it's a lot of interesting things coming out of strategy. And I think a lot of people that try to FUD their strategy or act like they're in danger probably just don't really understand strategy that well. Now, strategy is not the same as every other digital asset company. I will say that. There's other ones that may be taking on a lot more risk. I do believe strategy is very well thought out with a lot of their actions. Other people trying to emulate their playbook, not talking bad about anyone in particular, but I do think we're going to see some people taking too large of risks with digital asset treasuries, and that could come back to bite some people. A lot of people saying that could cause the next bear market, some of those collapsing. So
too much risk. You never have too much risk if you're talking about the board game. That is, you gotta lock down South America or Australia. That is the key. I don't know if you had a specific continent that you like to claim
I
early on.
I did. I used to try to work towards North America and South America. Yeah, if I could work on that side of the board, if
You
possible.
xenophobic person, you. All right. Well, speaking of xenophobia, let's talk about the election. No, I just kidding. Someone said we're too young. I'm in my 40s, but I do appreciate being called young. It's always a good time. I was in the election line yesterday. It was primarily, I had to go to 2 locations, one to find which church I had to go to. So I went like the main government complex, which is pretty close. It's a smaller town. Then I went to the church. The main complex full of young people. The church I went to, nothing but older people, and they had a special line for 75-year-old people and above. And a lady, she's like, "Oh, I wish it was 70." And the senior helper there, the guy helping, he's like, "Oh, you're still young." Everything is relative, folks. He was 75, and so hey, I heard a 70-year-old being called too young yesterday. So if you want to call me too young in my 40s, I'll take it. I'll take it. Now there were a lot of liquidations. Another 2 billion. That's just kind of insane. This is not normal. Longs got wrecked, 1.68 billion. Shorts got wrecked. 488,000 traders or accounts were liquidated. Total liquidation, just insane here. Largest order, one trade, one whale lost $47 million on a single trade. He was longing Bitcoin on HTX, 47 million just for one trade. That one's really, really got to sting the nostrils. Now we do have a smart trader. This guy is 20 for 20, all profitable. And folks, he still has some open trades. When I checked about 50 minutes ago, let's check in on his current account. This is his current account. Again, this guy is 20 for 20. This guy's been crushing it. His current account, when I checked earlier, it was like 16. He's now up to 17 million. And he has all 4 of these trades open. Look at this guy. He's going 10x on Uniswap, 20x on Solana, 20x on Bitcoin, 25x on Ethereum.
Wow.
So this guy is still deep in the green. His funding, he's actually getting paid to long Solana. That means there's a lot of people shorting Solana right now. This because you got to pay to keep that position open usually. So when you're getting paid, that typically means not a lot of people. Looking at some other ones, James Wynn has finally won in the past 2 months. Oh my God.
Yeah.
He's been liquidated 45 times. 45 times, whether long or short. But now he's finally in the green. He's sitting on a profit of 66K. Let's check in. It's down to 61. But this is actually interesting, TJ. So he's short Bitcoin. He's up 50K, 40x. Oh my God, folks!
Yeah, he
don't
always
use
does
40x. That is just totally nuts, folks. We
don't
do
follow
have,
his trades either. He might be up 60K now. He's been liquidated for like hundreds of millions, tens of millions.
you can counter trade it, I guess. 45 liquidations. You can counter trade that. But let's check in on this. This is very interesting. 24 hours, the man's up, 2K. Go to a week though, he's up 45K. You go to the month though, oh wait, it gets worse. Oh my God, that's 21 million, 22 million.
Yeah.
He was up. We were calling him James Wynn, and he called himself James Wynn. He was up 76 million. He was up 76 million, and then he took that down to 22 million.
Gotta know when to walk away.
That's $100 million swing there almost.
Yeah. That's James Lewis right there.
Now, I didn't cover this yesterday. There's a Bored Ape whale. This guy minted, this sounds like 300 Bored Apes. He had millions of dollars. He was selling some at the top. He had some rare ones. He has now been fully liquidated again. His account is now just down to $1,700. He was, he did have a 364K position. This is very, very sad seeing this guy give away all his profits from the Bored Ape Yacht Club there. And we have a whale who lost 44 million going long. He's now short. Revenge trading at its best. This is how people lose everything. Do not revenge trade. Be very careful out there, folks. And I'm actually going to do, there's a breakout prop. It's kind of, they teach you how to trade. I funded it with like just the minimum. I'm going to go through the tutorial. I'll post it for the members. Probably get it up today. So there's just use due diligence. Don't do 40x. There are ways to make money. I mean, CryptoFace has a Ferrari somehow, you know what I mean? You can make money, you can beat the market, but it is PvP and you will get hunted. Now, speaking of hunted, Richard Hart at one point, one of the most hunted men in crypto, hunted across the globe by Interpol. Richard Hart, founder of Hex, he is known for calling the top. Now, whether or not he did, that's dubious speculation. He did have a post near the top saying, it looks pretty high right now. I've actually seen him get pressed on that, but that's neither here nor there. He's known for calling the top, and he just sold. Ostensibly this is to sell. We don't know for sure, but he just deposited $366 million into Tornado Cash. TJ, is this Richard Hart calling the top again? Or calling the bear market?
He's trying to get out of Hex, I guess. He's trying to finally move that ETH from all that, all those sacrifices that have happened from the Hex and the Pulse chain, and why else is he running it through Tornado Cash? But yeah, I mean, he's obviously selling something, taking some kind of profit. So yeah, he wouldn't surprise me at all if he's cashing out.
Randy with the hot, yeah, he just wanted to buy a new man purse.
A new purse, yeah.
Yeah, he needed a new Merce.
Yeah.
A lot of people don't know that lore.
Legal team, but
you should find the one video. You know what I'm talking about? I think of the Gucci store. While I cover this real quick. Now there's a really funny video of him. Now be careful trading Jelly Star Platinum. This guy's kind of known for just posting a lot of threads. Apparently, there's 60% held by 3 wallets, and top holder has about half. He's been basically, I mean, he goes into it speculating a lot of manipulation. So if you are in this one, don't expect some insane moonshot. Don't be like, we're going to clear this and we're going to, blast higher. Just take your profit if you're in a illiquid meme coin. Now, speaking of ETH, we covered Peter Thiel's statement yesterday, how he's bearish on Bitcoin, said it's been co-opted by BlackRock. There isn't much upside left. Bitcoin, bearish take. But what does he think he does have upside? I didn't mention this yesterday, but, I want to give a shout out to RIP.ETH. That's a good one. He owns 9% stake in an ETH treasury company. So is he talking his bags here, trying to get people to buy Ethereum? Or is he just really that bullish on Ethereum? I'll let you answer that. I don't want to try to mind read, but, he is bullish on ETH. So maybe Palantir uses ETH in the future. Who knows?
Yeah, it seems to be ETH. Yeah, he's a hard one to read. I'll just leave it at that.
I don't know if you have that clip.
I couldn't find it. No, its search function on X is just terrible. I know which one you're talking about, but I can find pictures of him, but I can't find a video.
Okay. All right. Well, we'll share. Maybe I'll find a picture a little bit later. Now, major move. Let's, we saw the big gainers there. Zcash, Aster. I have a question for you, chat. Someone bought a whales bought $155 million on this illiquid altcoin. Is this CZ? Is it CZ? Type in yes, type in CZ, or no, it is not, just whales. Let me know. Do you think this was CZ that bought Aster? TJ, I'll ask you, was it CZ? What do you think here?
No, I don't think so. I mean, I think he was honest when he bought. He shared what he bought. He disclosed it, and then after we covered it on here, when he asked if he should or shouldn't, the consensus came back on X that he shouldn't. So he said, "Oh, I won't be disclosing going forward." So I don't think this one was him necessarily, but somebody big is. Yeah. Somebody says, I thought that was DC. No, we bought it around 50 cents. I've just been sitting on it, but didn't buy that much. I wish I was buying that much, but yeah, I'm still hoping it continues to run up. And again, I'm still sitting on a lot of my altcoins. Like if you're wondering if I'm taking action as if we're heading into a prolonged bear market, I'm not willing to call it yet. I still think, again, December, January, we could see some really big altcoin pumps, Aster being one of those. If it gets, into the $2, $3, $4 range, that's probably where I'm selling. Moving out of Aster, probably somewhere between $3 and $5.
All right, good question by chat. XRP is killing me. All right, he's out here fighting for his life. Should he move to Bitcoin or hold the XRP? Chat, what do you think? Bitcoin, XRP? I'm interested to know what you guys think as well. XRP. Oh, if this is the start of a bear market, you definitely want to be in Bitcoin. But if we are going to see that relief rally, you definitely want to be in XRP. I think XRP has a lot better shot at going from $2 to $3, a 50% pump, than Bitcoin does to go quickly from 100K to 150K, which would be a 50% pump. I would go ahead and move 10% today. Move some now.
Yeah, I mean, this always for me comes back to how much Bitcoin are you already sitting on. I did see that comment. These altcoin bags are getting heavy, and it's true, they are. It's easier if you're already heavy Bitcoin. So, again, if it were me, I'm holding my altcoins and waiting for an altcoin rally to sell into. I'm not selling into Bitcoin after altcoin dump. I do think we get another altcoin rally. So I'm waiting for that to sell. It's kind of like regardless of the altcoin, I don't care if it's AVAX, Chainlink, Solana, XRP, Cardano, whatever it is you hold. If you're tired of it and you're frustrated and you want to just sell it back to Bitcoin, completely understandable feeling.
Take profits. Oh
Yeah,
my God. Yeah, you got
I'm
to take
just
those
you
profits so you
found
could
it.
be like Richard Hart. This is one of the other videos, but
Yeah.
you can't do this unless you take profits.
That's right. And so but again, I'm waiting for a rally to do it. I'm not selling it into a loss. So, and again, I think it's going to happen after the market structure bill, the Treasury pumps money in, the Fed pumps money in. Yeah, he's funny.
He has aura. Chat,
He
does
has
Richard Hart have aura? I would say, in a picture form, there's aura exuding from this. Now, I did see him hit on a lady when we got some lunch, and the aura was
less
not
aura.
felt. The aura
Yeah,
wasn't
less
felt
aura.
then. I saw him get rejected in real time. But, not everybody's a ladies' man.
Well, he would say he definitely is.
He has the Boomhauer. What is it? The Boomhauer method from King of the Hill, and that's just shoot your shot repeatedly over and over and over again, and
eventually you'll connect.
Yeah,
Catch somebody on a bad day, and they'll
people point out his shoes. They must be his mom's. Yeah, he did go to his mom's, and he helped her with a bidet. It's a pretty funny video. Yeah, looking. Oh my God, you weren't kidding. You weren't kidding there. All right. Interesting stuff. All right, let's get back into crypto, folks. We do have some news. I will put out a video on the government shutdown. Like I said, it's the longest one in history. The government shutdown has borrowed debt consistently. And so we are going to see the money printers kick back on as this debt comes due. $17 billion per day. This is a long thread. I haven't had time. I need to pour it into the charts. I want to actually give you some good information, not just regurgitate a Kobayashi thread. But I am going to go in and see what happened to Bitcoin during the previous shutdowns. What can we expect after it ends? Is it going to be, up only? Is it going to be a chop season? Or is it going to continue to dump because, maybe it's just kind of a sign of an unhealthy government? I will let you know. So tonight's video, make sure you have on notifications. Make sure you go ahead and smash the like button on this live stream. Really does help us out, especially when we talk about things that might try to put us in YouTube jail, Twitter jail. So smash the like buttons. Let's see that engagement. I want to see that number start to spike a little bit. Now, TJ, I know you might have to head out in a little bit, but I want to bring this to you. Did you see the White House's statement? The press office released an official one-sentence statement using these exact words. President Trump has officially ended the Biden administration's war on the crypto industry. So back to the shutdown. Once the shutdown ends, are we seeing all hands on deck making U.S. the crypto capital?
Yeah, I absolutely think so. And that's why they're going to lead with the market structure, the Clarity Act. I saw a funny comment on that. I didn't see the actual White House post, but I saw them sharing that and just saying the war has officially ended. There were no survivors. And that's kind of how it feels. But yeah, absolutely. I do believe we are seeing the U.S. government and many governments around the world heading towards Bitcoin. I do think that's part of why I do hold out some hope we could see a bullish 2026, even though traditionally it's been bearish. Oh gosh, yeah, Richard Hart's got a never-ending amount of bad pictures of him out there. So, but yeah, even though I do think traditionally 2026 is scheduled to be a bearish year, I do think the U.S. government does want to be number one in crypto, and we will see major money flowing, not just into Bitcoin, Solana and Chainlink also on my radar. I do still think DeFi, anything that is Bitcoin and DeFi are things I'm extremely bullish on the macro. On the short term, though, I think we do still have a little time to get out of the woods. And I think the other thing that was happening today, there was a Supreme Court hearing on Trump's tariffs. There's just a lot of politics that are kind of slowing things down a little bit and slowing down the traditional timeline. So I'm still holding out for an alt season pump. Don't think it's over yet. I know that, generally when the sentiment's bad, most of the time when people are talking about strategy getting liquidated, that usually signals a bottom. So yeah, I'm still bullish, still buying.
We all know that's how DZ dressed in middle school. I grew up in Texas, and you had to starch your jeans. And we had a lot of gang activity, so we had to wear basically the school uniforms. You had to wear a green or a white polo t-shirt. But my jeans, boy, were they creased? Were they're starched all to hell? I had drip, man. I had drip. Speaking of drip, should they drip into Dash here? Dash, good DCA right now, or wait? I will say there's something I've been seeing on these Dino coins. These Dino coins, or just some of these pumps into new all-time highs, have been respecting these these Fibonacci levels. I think we saw it with Zcash, we saw it with BNB, and I think it's worth mentioning some of these fib levels for Dash as well. Because if you go to the 4 hour, all right, so we're just going from the swing high from the Trump pump to the swing low that we've seen recently during kind of the crab period. And if you look, I will say it is somewhat respecting these lines. So maybe something to pay attention to here. I don't hate if you're super. Now, this is only if you believe in the project. This probably isn't terrible. You know, you're coming down and it is a little bit of a decline here. Yeah, if you come in here, that's a 30% pullback. Not only that, you have the psychological level near $100. I don't hate a small entry. I wouldn't even say 30% of the bag, 40% of the bag, you know, maybe 10, 20% of what you want to put in. So if you want to put in $1,000 into Dash, go ahead, dip your toes in with $100, $200. You know, that's just kind of, people keep trying to fade all these Dino coins pumping, and then it ends up keep pumping, and then it keeps pumping, and then they feel like an idiot, then they FOMO at the top. So just go in with the plan. If you don't go in with the plan, you're gonna feel damned. They don't know about that stay flow. Oh my, yeah. Oh, I came in. I look like the old commercials of the Duracell family that were just like draped in like a very thick plastic. I look like your weird aunt's couch. Okay, I had a plastic sheen. I had a lot of gel in my hair. Maybe that's why I'm balding today. I was gelled out of the nines. Like I revealed yesterday, my mother was a hairdresser. She gave me like the way ahead of the curve. I'm using like Paul Mitchell when like no one even knew what that was. And they called me Uncle Jesse. I'm not kidding. They called me Uncle Jesse because I would always say, not the hair, not the hair. I wish I was kidding about that. They literally called me that. All right, let's see. Best time to add. Yeah, people, things are getting low. Bartcoin is the way. I mean, I wouldn't go there. Don't call yourself out like that. Look, man, you got to be honest, and people can pick up on your honesty. They could tell when you're fake. They could tell when you're draped in Gucci, maybe trying to compensate for something, or they could tell you just. I'm just going to move on. Japan SoftBank is way down. This is the largest stock in Japan. Extended its 2-day decline. $32 billion wiped from the market cap today. In a world of trillion-dollar companies, doesn't seem that bad, but I want to share that. Look at that market close to market open there. Huge drawdown. But things are looking pretty bearish over there in Japan. Now, let's go from Japan to New York City. New York City had a major election, and the biggest loser, Poly Market Whale. There's a Poly Market Whale. This guy bet $1 million betting against Mamdani. Lost $969,000 making the bold bet against Zodron. So, you know, we are seeing, you know, there's a lot of activity on this one. This mayor race on Poly Market was putting up like very, very impressive numbers. You would have thought it was a presidential election. Arthur Hayes, though, you know, he's always smoking the hopium. He has kind of a bullish take from this. Team Red, he's referring to conservatives, got smoked today by the Democrats, by Team Blue in the U.S. Time for Trump and Scott Bessent. Scott Bessent's going to be our Treasury Secretary. He's known for manipulating currencies, betting big on currencies. He famously shorted the British pound. This man knows currencies. I mean, he became a billionaire off this, I would say, better than almost anyone on earth. This guy really knows his currencies. So Arthur Hayes says it's time for Trump and the Secretary of Treasury to run the printer back turbo in 2026. Why? To hand out goodies so they don't lose the election in November next year. So I hope you're long Bitcoin and I hope you're long Zcash. Forget about the last sentence there. This is actually not a terrible take. I can see looser monetary policy to buy votes from conservatives, which would then lead to risk on assets pumping because no one wants to lose the election in November. And of course, November of 2026 is going to be a major election year. Looking at everybody in the House, you know, they have to run every 2 years. So that's going to be a major election. You're looking at the numbers a little bit different, but roughly 1/3 of the U.S. senators also going to be up for election. And you're just going to have a lot of governorships as well. So not a terrible idea that the conservatives are going to be the ones printing money, trying to buy votes. similar to what, maybe Biden was accused of in 2019, 2020 there. All right, and Cardano, ICP looking like a good buy right now. It's not good for crypto if the US dollar gains value. And some are saying, because of this, the US dollar will lose value. So they're going to have to print a little bit excessively. What does this mean for crypto in New York? If you are in New York, the crypto industry has been watching what Mamdani winning could mean for the blockchain space. His campaign focused on cost of living issues such as rent, childcare, and proposed funding these initiatives with the tax on the city's top 1% earners. So, a socialist Democrat, some would say just full-blown socialist, some would say communist. But while other candidates, particularly Cuomo, Eric Adams, they made public pronouncements supporting crypto, Mamdani has not. Few times he has mentioned crypto, it's had little to do with policy or whether he would support the industry there. For instance, in 2023, after Terra collapsed, Letitia James, she introduced a consumer protection bill. Mamdani, who was on the New York City Assembly at the time, said he supported the bill. When crypto companies collapse, it isn't the rich who suffer. It's small investors who disproportionately come from low income and communities of colors. I'm sure Sam Bankman-Fried's mother, Barbara, would disagree. Like, no, it's my son. It's my son who suffered. But Mamdani won't take oath until January 1st, 2026. So we got some time to see how this is going to play out. But there you go, folks. Now, I'm not going to play this whole video. It's a minute 33. It's Zuku. This is the founder of Zcash. We played Zuku on that Zcash video. I hope you watched that Zcash video. But he was asked point blank, or he asked point blank to Hal Finney, how are you Satoshi? And he asked Hal Finney on his deathbed. In the story, he relates that Hal Finney at that time was nonverbal, could only communicate by his visual impairment or his vocal impairment device. You look at a letter and you painstakingly can create text messages. And he said Hal texted him back, as he's standing next to him on his deathbed, are you Satoshi? Hal texted back, no, and I have no reason to lie as I'm on my deathbed. So there you go, Hal Finney to the grave, denying he was Satoshi Nakamoto there. All right, you guys have hot takes on Mamdani. I guess that's not surprising. He wants to pretend like he's Che Guevara, doesn't care if the city burns as he loses with Antifa and as the city burns. All right, so he just wants to be the Joker. I mean, what's wrong with being the Joker? What's wrong with being the Joker? That's obviously many, many things. He's blaming the landlords, wants to cut cops and replace with social workers. Now, to be fair, Oren, he has publicly endorsed defunding the police, particularly in 2020. He has walked back those statements. He was pressed directly. You still want to defund the police. At first, he lied about it and said, no, I never said that. The receipts came, and so he amended his statement and said, oh, I did say it in the past, but I don't feel that today. That was a little bit disqualifying to me. They say if you can lie and your pulse rate doesn't change and you don't sweat, you are a sociopath. And some would say, he kind of fits that. I think that fits a lot of politicians, though. So, maybe it's not Chris Chroma. It probably applies to him as well. It went a long way from, no, I'm not going to say that one there. And sure. I think, it would 100% apply to him. Publicly said all this. You don't know how economic. Now y'all just arguing. All right. Well, folks, that is our show for today. Let's check in on Bitcoin. One last moment here. Smash that like button on your way out. I do appreciate if you, let's see here. Where is BTC? Are we dumping? Are we pumping? Oh, man. I was about to say, oh, my God, look at the prediction. The prediction's coming true, but this green candle had to just fuck it up. All right. Well, I'll keep this there. We'll check on this tomorrow. We'll see if I was accurate. If not, I'll do a million push-ups, folks. All right. That's our show for today. Hit the like button on the way out. Easy out. Thank you.
We just wanted to take a quick second to shout out our sponsor, Arculus. They are a cold storage hardware wallet, helps you secure all of your digital assets for the future. Just tap this thing to the back of your phone and boom, you're in. We wouldn't be able to do this without them, but also wouldn't be able to do this without you guys, the Disco fam. You've supported us a lot over the years. If you want to support the channel now, just use the code DC20. It gets you 20% off this card. It's the #1 way you can support this channel going forward. Thank you for your support. We'll see you at the top.